Welcome to the podcast where passion and purpose collide. We are on a mission to interview women and the occasional token man about how their passion and purpose have collided to create healthy relationships and profitable businesses. I'm Elizabeth Denham. I'm here with Rebecca Monet, and we are the co-founders of the Coterie for Women and co-publishers of the Franchise Women magazine. So Rebecca, how's your week?
It's been, I know I say that every week. It's like, really? Thank goodness it's hump day and we have our great St. Patty's party because I need some let my hair down time. I don't know about you.
I just don't know how it's the middle of March already. We should not quite be in the middle of March. It's like yesterday was February. I don't know what happens.
I agree. So, you got any roses and thorns for this week?
I do.
Okay, I want to hear.
I have bigger ones than normal. All right, I'll do my thorn first. I'll do my rose. I'll go chronologically throughout my day. It was all today.
All right.
Get up early. We get a call or email yesterday from a friend, or Monday, and he's like, you can get the vaccine. You can go in, you can click other. They had overflow. You didn't have to be in the group. So I got myself and my husband and most of the children. Hannah's in DC. She's got to do it herself, but everybody who's here, and then Nicole's too young, but we're all vaccinated. Today we got in, got it done. So we were very excited about that because I have not hugged my mother except for one time in a year. The day I had my car accident, she hugged me, but that's been it. So we've been so careful, and they're older, and Luke and Richard have been really careful, and Jake's pretty careful, but it's just like, I said, we're April 21st, we'll be fully done. And I'm like, we're having a potluck at my house and everybody's coming over. We're just going to hug each other.
Party, yes.
Hug. That's all we're going to do. We don't have to talk, nothing. So that was a relief. We were all giddy with excitement. And I didn't think I'd be that excited. I was like, oh, well, it'll happen. Well, I got the appointment. I was like, oh, by the end of April, I'll be like done.
I'll be free.
Free. Which is exciting because graduation's coming up for Joseph, and all the normal things that you want to feel safe doing, and we haven't known if we were safe or not. Have a little more confidence doing. And his friend's mom wants to take him on a senior trip, which, bless her soul, I would love it if she would do that. And now I'll feel more confident with him going. So that's my rose. That was a biggie. The thorn. I get home. I'm sitting at my desk working. He leaves to go to band. And I get a call, Mom, my car is dead in the middle of the road. And I was like,
what's going on at this family with cars?
Donald's truck, Luke's brakes, Jake hit a mailbox. I got T-boned. That's 4.
I think it's time to just have one car rather than 6 cars to a family.
We just need a bus.
You need a bus
or a metro or something. As this car stuff is killing us. But he had let it run out of oil a while ago. And gotten it running, and they said, we don't know how long it's going to last. And so it was a little low. When I went to pick him up, we checked it and it was kind of low. So I don't know if he did it again or if it was just exacerbating the existing problem that he had already created. So it's kind of on him to get this all resolved since it was preventable. And we had told him when we bought the car, the owners were friends of ours, and they said it runs low on oil.
Keep an eye on it. Yeah. Oh my goodness, poor kid.
He is kicking himself. He's like, this was going to be such a great day. I got my vaccine. Our Chick-fil-A reopened after a remodel, and I was going to Chick-fil-A. And then in 3 seconds, my car died, and it all went downhill. And I was like, well,
yay, Chick-fil-A.
We got the car towed, so I said, I'll take you to Chick-fil-A. So at least you have 2 good things.
Oh my!
I got him some Chick-fil-A for lunch. So that all was before, noon. It was a very eventful day for us.
Very eventful.
And Joseph always hears me on the podcast because he's, doing virtual school. And so he's like, I guess you've got your rose and your thorn. I guess I do. And he goes, I actually have the same ones. Mine are exactly the same as yours. I'm like, I'm not surprised. Every time something bad happens to him, he's like, well, I guess you've got material for your podcast.
That's right. Hey.
I said, does it bother you? Does it upset you that I talk about that? He's like, no, it just is.
Just someday we'll have to have him on the show and say, this is Joseph.
This is whose life I get to use as
Luke, this is Richard, this is Hannah.
Here's Jake. I need a slideshow like you, so you know who I'm talking about because there's so daggone many of them.
Oh my goodness, how crazy.
Tell me your rose and thorn.
It's been a very eventful couple of weeks. But the thing that is kind of fresh in my mind is when I moved from California to Arkansas. Of course, you have to change banks and you have to change insurance and you have to re-register your car. I mean, it's a big hoopla. I mean, you got to take a whole month off just to,
Yeah, moving is not fun.
It's a pain. It's a pain. And I haven't had to do it in 37 years, right?
So you've been lucky.
So suffice it to say, the insurance agent for my medical has been the same guy that I've had for years. And I trusted him with my life. And now I have to go to someone else. And this guy is can we say schmuck on the air? Most incompetent thing I've ever seen. Anyway.
Had issues with competency in Arkansas.
Maybe there's I don't know. Let's not go there because I don't want to offend anybody.
I love Arkansas.
Yes. But suffice it to say, I'm getting dozens of calls for this and that and the other. And honestly, I was ready to scream. Oh, no. I was ready to say, if you're going to call me one more freaking time, cancel this stupid insurance. But I did have a fall last year and I do need insurance. Not wise to let my emotions take control and just cancel insurance.
You got because one more year for Medicare.
Shh, Elizabeth. No, it's more than a year.
She has 10 years to Medicare.
Oh, that's right. I'm 15 years before I get which was part of what was irritating me about this, because this was a supplemental insurance. So which insulted me because I'm not old enough to have supplemental insurance yet. So they should have named it something else. It wouldn't offend me. And I didn't buy any supplemental insurance. I bought a policy. Anyway, enough of that. That's my thorn.
There's nothing ever about insurance that's not thorny.
It's very thorny.
So thorny. So yes. I have a good rose because that's kind of a
well, my good rose is, as you know, I spent almost a year and a half off of sugar completely. And once I moved to Arkansas, I was a slippery slope and was back on all the sugar. So I have now been off of sugar once again for several days. And Elizabeth, I got to tell you, it's like two different people. My head is clear. I have more energy. I'm able to sleep. And I'm like, that sugar is like heroin. It's like in my body anyway. Others, you go do your sugar thing.
I think sugar is the devil for everyone.
It's the devil. It's the devil. So the devil is now gone and hopefully gone forever.
Good. That is good. And it does make a difference. When I kind of drifted off my Whole30 after the car accident because I just needed something.
Yeah, wine.
Any food, a carb, anything. So I've been trying to get back on the wagon, the same thing before I fall too far off of it. And it does make a huge difference.
Makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because so much of my work is mental, it's heavy concentration. And if my brain isn't working, it takes 3 times the energy to do what I need to do. So it's amazing. Just get off of sugar and you'll be surprised how fabulous your brain works.
Yeah, it changes your life. And Hannah went off it. She did the Whole30 because she was having some stomach issues and was feeling bloated all the time. And that was not something she normally felt. And I think during the pandemic, she's baking a lot and she's cooking a lot just to occupy her time. And I think she was eating more sugar. And so when she went off of it, and then when she just tried 2 teaspoons in her coffee and she did not feel good.
Yep.
It was amazing. That, and it was like, I think flour,
which turns into sugar.
Right. Yeah. It's those complex carbohydrates. So she has been finding alternatives to, like, you can buy chips. Donald bought me some that are made of avocado oil and they're good and they're light. You don't feel so heavy and full. And she's found alternate pastas and crackers and things that you can find that are vegetable based. And I think, years ago when they had some things like that, they were gross. So like eating paper, but now they're pretty darn good. You would never know. So Good. I'm glad you're back on it because I know you feel better. You've talked about it with
Yeah.
clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the same thing. I told somebody all I do for a living is think stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
As a writer and as a creator, all you do is think. That's your whole job. And if you can't think, that's why a headache will totally throw me because you can't think through that sometimes.
Right. Right.
People don't
Yeah,
give that enough credibility.
I agree.
You think.
I agree. All I know is my roses, the devil called sugar, is gone.
Welcome back to the podcast where passion and purpose collide. We are here today with Dr. Grace Huxtable-Mount. Her education career spans more than 20 years, including time spent teaching young children, as well as leading training and developing other educators, all in an effort to shape positive culture in both public and private educational organizations. Dr. Huxtable-Mount fell in love with children and early childhood education from a young age. She often volunteered in preschools and always dreamed of one day having her own school. She has earned her bachelor's, master's, specialists, and PhD in educational leadership, all from the University of Florida. Go Gators, even though I'm a Seminole. Dr. Huxtable-Mount has worked as an educator both here and internationally. She founded and led the Huxtable Education Group through the No Child Left Behind. And then eventually she joined the Learning Experience franchise where she realized her dream of owning her own school. She opened her first location in 2009 and is a multi-unit operator with 5 locations across the state of Florida. She has been recognized as Women Business Owners Franchisee of the Year in North Florida in 2011 and currently serves on the advisory board of Make-A-Wish in Central and Northern Florida, where she helps grant wishes and make a difference in the lives of critically ill children and their families. So, Grace, welcome to our show. We're so excited to talk to you today.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, we've been looking forward to this time with you. I'm wondering if we can backtrack to pre-coming to America. Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood, where you were raised, and the influences that you had in your life when you were young?
Yes, well, I come from a large family, and everyone in my family was born in Jamaica, except for me. I was born in the Bahamas. It was kind of like a stepping stone from my family on their way to, coming to the United States. So I was my mom's 4th and kind of unexpected child. So
Surprise.
surprise. So my aunt and uncle were planning to come to the United States before my mother was able to. And as a way of helping her support herself and the family, my aunt and uncle took me in and kind of informally adopted me and brought me to the United States with them when I was a toddler. And of all places, they moved to DeLand, Florida, which is really tiny, kind of in the middle of Central Florida. So I grew up kind of in a small town environment. And it was an interesting experience, and it's definitely made me who I am. And my name, Grace, my mom gave me that name because it was only by the grace of God that, she could figure out what to do and that I would be here. So that's always been like, driving.
Big deal.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, and when we were preparing for this interview, you talked about the weight of your name, not only Grace, but also the Huxtable part of your name and how all of this has played a role in your life. Talk to us a little bit about, because when you're named because by the grace of God, here am I, that does kind of lend a little bit of weight to the way you think about it and how you identify and, talking about having grace for yourself and others in life. So tell us a little bit about how that thread has been weaving through your life.
Yeah, well, I've always been told that, it was only by the grace of God. And growing up like in a Pentecostal household, I'd get the jokes, oh, amazing grace, let's say prayers. And then having the last name Huxtable, I'm about the same age as Rudy Huxtable. So Starting in kindergarten, I would get like the Cosby Show jokes. But, as I grew, I realized that, that name is important and it was meant for me.
Mhm.
And there's been so much grace on my life, like the fact that my aunt and uncle brought me to the United States and that they were able to provide for me. And they would tell me, we brought you here so that, you can get an education. And so I always knew that I had to focus on that and that was going to be the way to better myself and be able to take care of myself and take care of my family. And as I became an educator and married my husband, he's an entrepreneur. I more so am not, but the Huxtable part of it, it ended up becoming a business for us. And he got me to see that, we should really monetize this thing. So, because when we were getting married, I wanted to keep my name because it's cool.
Mhm.
It's an uncommon yet very well-known name.
Yes.
Yeah. And just the idea of that show with, seeing someone, African-American family that was doing so well and that was educated, that was a source of motivation. And we ended up turning that into our first business, was Huxtable Education Group, focused on education, of course.
What a great story where
It
you can leverage it. This name, so you got this beautiful name of Grace Huxtable-Mount, your husband's name. Um, the grace part, do you find when you're in the public or you're working with parents or students or you're at a conference, do you see that part of your name also expressing itself? Do you find that you act in a particular way, um, or uh, or express yourself in a certain way because of this idea of grace?
Yes, definitely. It's, I've learned that that name is special for me because I'm at my best when I am having grace for other people and carrying myself a certain way. Um, Empathy is really important for me. And that's always been a way that I've been able to connect with other teachers and with my parents, my families. Um, and I feel like when I stay in that place of having grace for others, and that's when I'm in my zone. When I get outside of that, things fall apart. They don't go my way. And that's when I've had conflict that I know that I wouldn't have had that conflict and things would have gone better if I would have stayed true to myself.
Mhm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I've learned to just, dive deep into that. When there are problems, I know it's not going to go my way if I try to handle it, in some other kind of confrontational way. That's not me. And even though I may not feel like I am the master of solving every problem, but when I attack the problem, knowing that, okay, let's take a step back, let's analyze this, and then let's see how we can handle this in a way that is in line with me still being in that place of grace.
Mm.
It kind of goes back to that little bit of an inner voice. When every time you don't listen to your own inner voice or the things that drive you, it seems like it's going to end badly, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you have that name as a reminder, a constant reminder, like, wait a second, I can't get off the path.
Yeah.
It's an identity too. I mean, I think I'm gonna change my middle name to Grace, Rebecca Grace, because I could use more gracefulness in general, but also offer more grace to others. And I would assume this is particularly important, like you said, when you're dealing with children and
Yes.
parents of children. I mean, our first impression, Elizabeth and I, when we first met you and we got offline and spoke, is that's exactly who you are. There's this sense of calm and peace and grace just speaking. with you. And it's like my blood pressure goes down by 10 points, right?
And it's so funny that you say that, because my team, my leadership team of all my schools, I mean, we talk every day. We have group texts, and with today being St. Patrick's Day, we're sharing fun pictures of cute things happening in the schools. And whenever someone has a challenge, if a parent is upset about something or is having a rough time and you have to figure out what to do, my gifting is to be able to help them stay calm, because they're all leaders in their own right. But where I'm able to help them and support them is to, let's de-escalate the situation first so that we can come up with a solution that works for everybody. And it's just really important, because a child is a parent's most precious gift. And that's something that I always keep at the forefront of all of my decisions, is that we have to remember who we're dealing with here. And then for the teachers, this is a work of heart. So anytime that there's a problem with the teachers, they also need a whole lot of grace, because I couldn't have all these schools if I didn't have magnificent, wonderful teachers who were committed. So it's important on all aspects of what I do.
So what kind of role did your upbringing play in that? Your ability to be calm, your ability to solve problems and lead in a way that people can follow? Because I know that you grew up as a young child participating in the household needs and things that needed to be done. Talk to us a little bit about the experience you had as a young child growing up as an immigrant family, because that's a whole other challenge in addition to the normal challenges of childhood, and how that has helped you navigate through this business life that you have.
Well, my aunt and uncle were just an amazing giving couple. We always had someone in our house that they were helping. And so I've always felt that need that I'm supposed to help and support my family and support them as well. So my aunt, she only finished 8th grade, and my uncle, he stopped going to school after elementary school. So literacy, my aunt would tell me how important it was to read, but my uncle couldn't really read and write. So I may have had to help with like writing checks for example, like if there was a bill that he needed to go downtown and, pay the water bill or something like that, he may give me the bill and tell me what to write, tell me what to put on the check, and then he would just sign his name. Mm-hmm. And so, looking back on it, that was definitely a lot for 8, 9, 10-year-old, but that was my norm, was to help my family in any way that I can. And they were both extremely hardworking. And so I would just see, okay, this is just what you need to do. So I just always had that sense of supporting my family, doing whatever I need to do to play my part in moving things forward and supporting the family.
Did you always know you were going to be an educator, or what was that path to getting your degrees and then teaching and creating this business with your husband and now a franchise? So was it clearly the theme is education, but did you know you were going to be an educator? Was that the plan, or did you think I was going to be a business owner? What was that whole process like for you?
I definitely didn't have a clue that I would be a business owner. That would have sounded scary to me. But again, being from a big family, like my aunt and uncle, they had older children, and I had older cousins. And as all the cousins started having children, I'm kind of in the middle. So I would end up playing with the kids. I'd be the entertainment. So I was just always really close to my little cousins, and I just developed a connection. I realized that I'm really good with kids. Kids like being around me. They'd rather be around me than the adults. And I just always had fun and felt joy when I could take care of kids and help. And so I knew that I wanted to work with children. I just didn't know how. But when I had the opportunity to go to college, I I really thought I was going to do something in the medical field, but I couldn't figure out what.
Hmm.
And I tried certain classes, and anyone that's done pre-med, you kind of know that
Mhm.
your brain's got to be wired a certain way. And I finally realized it wasn't the medicine at all that I was passionate about. I admire and respect that, but I really wanted to make a difference with children. I love to be able to see them learn and grow. And I decided that I was going to become an educator. When I told my aunt and uncle that I was going to be a teacher, their reaction was, really? But
Aw.
you're so smart. You're not going to make any money as a teacher. So they were actually disappointed because, again, as immigrants, you come here to make a better life for yourself. And their perception of a teacher was not one that I would financially do better. And that's what their goal was. So fortunately, I was
What
able
about,
to prove them wrong.
well, exactly. And I want to get into that transition from teacher, traditional teacher to what you're doing now. But I also think it's interesting because you come across as such a confident, clearly focused person. And I wonder how much of that came from that. It seems that the family's determination to educate you and to have a better life gave you a lot of clarity. Maybe not exactly what you were going to do, but
Right.
on how that these are the steps I need to take. And I'm curious if writing checks from 8 years old and being confident that you could, I mean, clearly they knew you could do it. So that's a boost for an 8-year-old or however old you are, you know? So what kind of confidence, I mean, it seems like a lot of that came, I think bigger families, sometimes you get that. Everybody's there supporting. I have a big family. We're all pretty confident people on the whole, and clear. So I'm just curious what kind of role you think that played. And when you were playing with the children, did you play teacher? I mean, did
Were
you?
you the bossy one? That's what I want to know. Were you the bossy teacher that with your cousins?
The funny thing is that I may have projected confidence, and I may even project confidence now, but I didn't realize that. I was very unsure of myself, but I always had ideas and I always had plans of what we should do. So, you know, I guess I was bossy. I just didn't realize it. And one of my friends, once we became adults, she's the one that pointed it out to me. And she's like, yeah, you were the one always thinking of what to do.
Mm-hmm.
You were bossy. And I had no clue. I
In
didn't
a
even realize.
subtle nudging kind of way.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so many children. Because I have a friend who was large and in charge, and she was teeny weeny. And she became PTA president when we were adults. And I thought, well, of course she did. And they're probably looking at you thinking, well, of course she's owning franchises at this point. You know?
Yeah, I think my family, they were growing a little leader and they didn't realize it.
They
But
didn't
all
realize
of
it.
the giving me responsibilities and trusting me to babysit when I was still really young, because like my daughter is 11, I can't see her being in charge of other little kids right now. But at 11, I was babysitting.
Yeah,
I was getting paid to babysit.
Right.
that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a different generation.
Yeah.
So you went to university then to be a teacher.
Yes.
And so we get our teaching degree. Do we then begin to teach? And what happens there that makes you decide, I'm going to go get my PhD? What was that process like?
So when after I graduated from the University of Florida, I did feel ready to be a teacher. And I thought that, you know, I would find a great school and that was going to be my career, because I am a person, I like consistency. So being a teacher, I knew what my schedule would be. And I just thought that it was going to be consistent and reliable, because being someone that your family came here for a reason, you're supposed to succeed. I wanted some kind of like guaranteed pathway. And my first year of teaching was phenomenal. I was in a great situation where my mentor teacher that I was assigned to as a first year teacher, she was also Jamaican, and she just happened to be in school to get her PhD. And she was amazing to me, and it was just unusual. I hadn't seen that before. And my principal, she also was just so classy, and she cared so deeply. We had such high expectations, and she also had her PhD. So I was in my first year exposed to some really phenomenal mentors and women as leaders in education. They were committed to their schools, to education and teaching, but they also saw value in that higher level of education. So I thought, well, if they're doing it, I could get my PhD, because with my teaching program, it was one where they required that you get your master's as a part of the program. And me thinking, well, I already have a master's. I'm not getting a second master's. If I'm going to go back to school, I want the next level up.
Right.
So, but just the fact that I was able to work in an environment where I saw that it was possible, and I saw how excellent these women were, like that was really inspirational for me. And that made me think I could do it, even though I was only 25 and technically I was too young and didn't have enough experience. But I was persistent. I applied at a couple of different colleges, and I ended up back at the University of Florida. And it was because of teachers that believed in my potential, even though I was still very young. They believed that I could do it, which I believed. I thought, I don't know what made me think that I could do it, because even the application says you need to have taught for this many years, and I hadn't taught that many years yet, but I knew that I was capable.
Yeah, there is this thread of confidence, like this quiet confidence that maybe you don't even realize during, but it's very visible when you talk.
I never realize it.
Yeah, that's so funny, because you come across that way, but I think it's because you are. And not anybody can walk in and say, well, I don't meet the criteria, but I want to do it anyway. I mean, it takes a little gumption to do that, right?
Yeah. I knew that I knew that I was meant to lead other educators. Mm-hmm. Like my first year of teaching, I was with a co-teacher who was also a first year teacher. And it was just such an awesome experience. But my principal, there were several times where she brought other teachers to come and watch us teach. Mm-hmm. And while I did, made me a little uncomfortable, because I'm never one that's trying to outshine anyone. I'm just trying to be my best self. But it let me know that, wait a minute, I can impact others in a way to be better. Mm-hmm. And it's all for these kids. And that just really meant a lot to me. So it was a driving force for sure.
That's so interesting, because Rebecca and I have been talking a lot this week about women and the need to not take credit or have credit, or to give to someone else, or say, here's an idea, you take it and run with it. But the importance of owning the fact that you can be a leader, owning the fact that you're confident in your abilities to help others or lead others. And so we're talking about the idea of the attitude and perception of ourselves in terms of taking, it's okay to take that authority and that ownership of your gifts, and not feel like it's a brag, or it's an arrogance or whatever. And so as you're transitioning from the teaching to the business world, talk to us a little bit about that, because that is a completely different component that you have not dealt with as a teacher. That adds a whole lot of other stuff, going from owning the business and then into franchising. So tell us a little bit about what that transition was like and what your thought process was.
Well, I'm always planning, because it's funny. Even though I'm a business owner now, I do crave stability. Mm-hmm. It seems strange, but I do crave stability. I love when I know what's going to happen. I know I can't control everything, but I can try to put the best plan in place. And so I was good with being a teacher. And then when I decided that I was going to work on my PhD in educational leadership, I really saw myself going into just school leadership and working in the public school system. And I thought I'd retire that way.
In administration.
In school administration, mm-hmm. Yes. But I married an entrepreneur. I knew he was an entrepreneur. I had no idea he dragged me into it. Yeah. And so pretty much met my second or third year of teaching, he said, like, you're working really hard. Like, if you're going to work this hard, you might as well have we might as well have our own business. And he was, worked for a phone company. He was in an executive management position, and he wasn't happy with that because, again, he's more of a true entrepreneur. So I said, okay, well, if we're going to do a business, it has to be in education, because if I don't, I think that's where my confidence comes from as well. I'm confident in things that I feel I'm capable, qualified, have the potential to do, and that I have the heart and passion for, because you have to love it. Anything that you are going to be that committed to and, you know, put your all into, you've got to believe in it and love it. And I just believe, I know that education was the key for me. So when I can do that for others, it's the best thing for me. So while I was working on my PhD program, I'm working in the school board building, and I come across a program. I come across No Child Left Behind, and I say, hey, here's a business that we can do. So I present it to him. I mean, we did a whole presentation. We got a chart paper out because I'm a teacher. And yeah, we had all on a board just trying to brainstorm what we would do. And we came up with our own marketing. He came up with the logo, and we just kind of created everything from scratch. Like, I worked with different publishers to put our curriculum together, our lesson plans, everything. And we created a tutoring company that worked with low performing schools. So we did very well with that business. It was such a blessing. It was an amazing experience. We received support from our local chamber of commerce, and I did a lot of business training then, because even though I'm in my PhD, my doctorate classes were still about school systems, not about, you know, profit and loss statements and, you know, things that you need to know as a business owner. So I was learning as I went along, but all of it prepared me for where I am now. So I knew going into it that No Child Left Behind was going to go away, because it was a government program. And as politics change, some of your programs change. So I started thinking, what are we going to do next? And I thought that, okay, well, this would be an opportunity that if I'm going to do something else, like, I want to have my own school, because that was something that I thought about when I was younger. I just thought more of being a principal of a school. I didn't realize that, you know, I could have my own school. So I started to look at franchises, and I did that very intentionally. And I get asked the question a lot, why did you choose a franchise? Like, you literally are an educator and you had a business. Those are the two parts of the franchise that I chose, business and I chose an educational business. So yes, I could have started it from scratch, but my ultimate desire that hadn't been achieved yet was becoming a mom. I really wanted to have children, and but because I'm a planner and want that stability, I will work, and put everything to the side and just work to make sure that whatever I'm doing is done right, and that I'm committed to it, and it's done with excellence. So I decided that I don't have the time to come up with everything again from scratch for a school. So I chose a franchise because a franchise is supposed to give you systems to follow and support.
It's right in with your planning personality, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So the hunt for a franchise, I spent hours and hours and hours and hours researching, and I traveled to a few different headquarters of different childcare franchises, and I fell in love with the learning experience, because I felt like it was just the perfect match for what was important for me. Because I do think that if you're going to be a business owner, try your hardest to be one that has integrity. And they cared about the business side deeply. They had lots of great systems to protect you as a business owner. But on the education side, I mean, it is just the best. Like I've written lesson plans and studied curriculum and built programs before. So I was able to compare them with others. And I just feel like our curriculum is just so wonderful. We have such amazing characters and concepts, and we teach philanthropy and sign language. There's just so much. So I fell in love with that. And I felt like the learning experience would give me the opportunity to have their systems so that I could then try to focus on fitting in, becoming a mom with being an educator and business owner. And ironically, like I found out that I was pregnant with my first child, like right before the center opened.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's a great story. And I think it speaks volumes about the learning experience, because coming from someone like you who sets the bar very high and have talked about, you've said excellence several times, and has studied the curriculum, for you to think this is something I can come into instead of here's something I want to change and redo and rewrite curriculum for. I mean, that you can tell it's a great fit for you. And I think it speaks pretty highly of them that someone like you who has a very high bar is so, your face lit up when you started talking about that. So you can tell that it's exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yes. And if you look, I don't know if you can see the logo on my shirt, but it says the learning experience happy happens here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually important to this company as a brand that the franchisees are happy. Mm-hmm. And again, you have to support them as businesses as well in order to make everything work. And it trickles all the way down to our teachers and to our kids and to our parents and what we do for them. And I feel like when that's a part of what you do, that's a win.
Mm-hmm. It's a win. And we learn better when we're in a happy environment, right?
Yeah, when learning is fun. And
learning is fun.
That was always a part of their philosophy, was to make learning fun. And that was something that I could, I felt like I felt fit right into it. And then becoming a mom, I'm able to bring my children to work with me and let them have this fabulous educational experience while I'm working.
So, okay. So we went from being a teacher to being an entrepreneur, running your own school, to getting involved in a franchise that you truly believe in, to now we have more than one franchise, correct?
Yes, I have 5 schools.
Holy moly. Okay, what was the mindset with that? Because it's different running your own school, right? And now you're managing 5 schools. How did you make that leap? What mindset changes did you have to make? Because obviously you can't be in all 5 locations every day, 8 hours a day.
Yeah. Some people say, man, I don't know how you do it. And I say, I don't know how I do it either. Other than the grace of God is the biggest thing.
There it is.
You come back to
full circle.
Yeah.
The grace of God.
Once I realized, okay, I can do one, but I can do so much more if I have more of them. I can make a greater impact. Mm-hmm. And I have just a particular belief about the way that early childhood leaders should behave and interact with their team. And I did volunteer and teach in the summers at other preschools. And I just was never satisfied with the leadership of them. And in early childhood, it's different when you move into leadership. You usually don't have as much training as you would in the public school, as what would be required in the public school system. Right. But I realized that if I can create great leaders, I can have multiple schools.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I kind of wanted to just build my own team under the bigger team of the franchisor, because if I'm taking their systems and just adding my own grace on it, then that's what makes it work. Like, I genuinely love my team and I feel like they love me too. And I know that there are boundaries, of course, in all working relationships, but they ultimately know that I respect them and that I'm trusting them to be the leader of these schools. So I feel like I'm giving more people an opportunity to be leaders by me doing more. So it is crazy and it is a lot. It's definitely stressful and overwhelming. And I have some days where I'm like, what am I doing?
Well, and here's what I want to know too. We're almost running out of time, but I wanted to ask you one more question before Rebecca wraps us up. And that is, what does the family think now? They were disappointed about the whole education thing, but now you're talking about more than educating in this part of the conversation. You're talking about impact.
Yeah.
And I think you've expanded beyond I want to teach children to I want to impact and create leaders of children, yes. Which is, it's a little shift in your mindset. But what does the family think now?
Oh, my family is so proud of me.
I'm sure they are. They're okay that you're not a doctor.
Well, my one of my brothers jokes about, that I'm the only doctor in the family.
Right.
And
you are a doctor, just not the
medical. And he'll say, well, at least we have one Dr. Huxtable. It's, my family they're proud. And but sometimes they'll say, oh, well, we're not surprised. It's you. But I'm surprised. Yeah. And I'm able to help and support, and I love that. And I just had a huge milestone that we would have never imagined happening, that I was able to purchase the commercial real estate for one of my properties, one of my schools. And it's a dream. Like, I can't believe that I own commercial real estate, and it's life-changing. It's, I'll be able to leave a bigger legacy for my family. And, my uncle tells me that I'm his star. And
now you're helping to take care of him.
Yeah.
Role reversal a little bit. He doesn't have to.
Yeah. So every time he thanks me for anything that I do, and I tell him I'm where I am because of everything that you did for me. So,
yeah.
Well, and you stuck to your path. Like, they would have had you in medical school probably, but I admire the fact that you had this kind of pressure from the family of an expectation, and you met the expectations just on your own
in
a different way. So you took a little bit of a divergent, trek from what they had expected for you, but aren't you proud that you stuck to that and look at what happened?
It's all a blessing. Sometimes I just don't even know how I'm here, but I just feel so blessed. A lot of things that I've asked for, and worked hard for, I've been able to achieve those goals, and more than anything that I had imagined for myself. I never imagined this for myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a blessing to be able to impact education this way. And I just hope that as I'm being a good influence to the leaders that work for me, that their influence will grow and that their dreams will come true and that they'll be able to do more.
Like a ripple effect, right?
Yeah.
Well, you are definitely the most graceful and quietly confident and humble person I think we've had on the show. Oh. And there's so much for all of our listeners to learn, that when we step into our true identity, and somehow your mom knew that this is who you would become by naming you this, that when we step into our true identity, we become all that we were designed by God to become. So we are so grateful for the time that you have spent with us. If someone wanted to get hold of you, Grace, or learn more about the learning experience, how would they do that?
The easiest way to find us is thelearningexperience.com, and you can easily search different locations. And if you're looking for me in particular, I'm on Facebook as just Grace Huxtable-Mount. I think I'm on LinkedIn as Dr. Huxtable-Mount. But I love helping other people, and I want to be an inspiration, because if I can do all the things that I've done when, we came here with not much, like my uncle worked in random construction jobs and my aunt cleaned houses. So if I can be where I am from those beginnings, anyone can achieve. And I love to inspire others.
I got
So
this.
true. Me too.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much, Grace. We so enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you for having me. This was awesome. I really enjoyed speaking with you both. You ladies are wonderful.
What do you think is the #1 challenge for franchisors? You got it, getting the right fit franchisee. And as you know, poor fit franchisees are often poor performers. Poor fit franchisees cost more to train and support. Poor fit franchisees are rarely satisfied or compliant, which can lead to validation issues. Not a good place to be. But now there is a solution. Zoracle Profile's scientific spot-on match program. Working with top broker groups in franchising, Zoracle has created a platform that scientifically matches the broker's candidate to the right fit franchise brand. Spot On Match predicts the compatibility, performance, and viability of a prospective franchisee. Spot On Match gives the franchise development team a data-driven and scientific approach to selling franchises. This is how it works. Zoracle works with each franchisor to establish their top performer blueprint. This research assesses current franchisees to determine the key psychographic indicators that separate high performers from mid to low performing franchisees. The final result of the research is the brand's Eclipse report, which compares prospective franchisees to a franchise system's high performers. Finally, brokers are running a spot-on profile on each of their franchise prospects. These profiles are then scientifically bumped up against the franchisor's high performer algorithms, and the match process begins. Dashboards are built for the franchisor and the broker to make sure the process is smooth and trackable. Right Fit matches instantly. Find out how you can be a spot-on match member. Save time. Stop guessing. Start matching. Call Zoracle Profiles.
Welcome to Women in the Know, where we discuss everything from politics and policy to relationships and marketing. We take the things that we have learned in all of our interviews and in our life experience to share with you and learn a little something from each other. So, Rebecca, today we spoke with Grace Huxtable-Mount, Dr. Grace Huxtable-Mount, about her childhood a lot. We focused on a lot about where she came from and how she got where she is. And it was kind of this running theme of things that were influential and predictive in her life, including her mother sending her to live with her aunt and uncle in the US before she was able to travel there, and the impact that that had on her. So what was your takeaway from that? Because I thought it was such an impactful and profound story, from how she was named to the things that became important to her as she grew. What was your thought?
Well, it's interesting because in my business with Zoracle Profiles, we're always talking about nurture versus nature, right? And so it's a constant argument, which is more influential in who we become.
Mm-hmm.
And so clearly the argument here, whether Grace even knew she was in an argument or making a point, was how much the way she was nurtured by her mom making a conscious choice to send her to America with her aunt and uncle to give her a better life and get her an education. That was nurturing, right? It was a mother choosing to do that. And then being raised by an aunt and an uncle who gave her an opportunity, along with their other children, raised in a blue-collar family, but it created this individual. And then her mother giving her the name Grace, and coming from a strong Pentecostal background where it was by the grace of God, grace is here. And so she grew into this name and became everything that was graceful, everything that was giving grace to others. It became her entire identity, this combination of the name she was given and how her mother and her aunt and her uncle nurtured her into who she became. So I thought it was a wonderful argument for nature. I mean, excuse me, for nurture. Oops.
Well, I think it was, and to me, it's always such a combination, because the nurture part put the emphasis on education. It put the emphasis on a better life. It put the pressure on her for those things. We expect that we made this move. This mother sent her child to live with a sibling so that she could have this better life. And so what kind of pressure does that put on a child? But also, it's the nature of Grace was and is that she followed her own path. You know, they had laid out this ideal, which I think a lot of people who are not from the US do. The doctor, the lawyer, you know, these professional, elevated, you know, jobs in society, high paying jobs equate to success for so many people. And her equation to success was not on that path. It was on a path that was instilled in her own personality, I think, not necessarily by her parents or her aunt and uncle, but by Grace herself. She wanted education. Education was nurtured, but doing that for a job was nature, I think, because she was
good point.
And in following her own path, she stuck to her true self while still achieving this level of success that was expected of her by this immigrant family who wanted more
for her. Absolutely. So that's a really good point. I think we called it something in one of our other shows about it. She's an acorn, and it didn't matter where she was going to be planted. She's going to turn into a powerful oak tree. But in this case, she was not just the acorn, but she also then was given the nurturing to become this powerful, you know, leader that she's become. But it still was slightly counter what the family expected, right? They were just like, you're going to be a teacher?
Right.
We had such big hopes for you, Dr. Lawyer, Indian Chief. What do you mean a teacher?
Right. And that's a sad state of where we are with teachers. First of all, it's a sad thing that the disappointment would be if you become a teacher instead of the joy. But I also love how she's evolved in her thinking from educating children and being an influence to the impact she can have as a leader. Through the educational process with her franchise, because she is thinking bigger. I mean, once she has achieved a certain milestone, she seems to be shifting into a bigger thought process in terms of, I don't have to be the teacher, but I can train the leaders who train the teachers and have a greater impact.
Right. And hopefully that then goes even further. At some point, they will impact others and they will impact. It's that trickle effect. And the profession of teaching, in my opinion, is one of the most impactful professions any woman, any man, any human being can choose to be in. And it's clear that she chose the right path along the way, and she had the right upbringing to allow for that. And she even had two really great models and mentors that encouraged her even at a very young age. I wished all of us as women had, you know, some of these gifts that she has in terms of the support, the nurturing, the encouragement. And, you know, obviously that's part of what the coterie is about, is to create that for those maybe that don't have it, or if you do have it and you have an abundance of it, that you turn around and you encourage others, mentor others, be a cheerleader to others, because it makes a difference, and we can see it in Grace's life.
Absolutely. I really thoroughly enjoyed her interview. She was really great to talk to and inspiring, and has such a good story. And so likable. I just like her.
I know. You wanted to reach out and hug her. It's like, yeah, she's very likable. Well, there we are. We dissected our conversation with Grace Huxtable-Mount. If you haven't listened to the interview in full, you need to do that. In the meantime, that's all for Women in the Know today.
The Franchise Woman is a bi-monthly digital magazine that empowers women as they navigate the franchising industry by providing relevant news, tools, advice, and inspiration. We are a resource for women who are seeking to own their own businesses, improve their existing businesses, find creative solutions, and take advantage of franchise opportunities. We feature women in the business who best exemplify our ideals and have something to teach our readers. In addition to our exclusive articles relating to the female entrepreneur, we also feature brands that are geared for women. Women have become the fastest growing sector in business ownership and have become a powerful, influenceable force fueling the economy. The Franchise Woman will give you the news that is relevant to you to help you navigate the path of successful franchise ownership. By women, for women, and about women. We are the Franchise Woman. Join us today at www.thefranchisewoman.com.
Welcome to Ask Beck and Liz, where no topic is off limits. We want to answer your questions about business, life, and everything in between. Send your questions to ask@beckandliz.com. That's ask@beckandliz.com. So our question today comes after our conversation with Dr. Grace Huxtable-Mount from the Learning Experience. She's a franchisee. Actually, she's a multi-unit franchisee. And you actually asked her a question about her confidence and if she'd always kind of had this kind of confidence and knowingness in her ability or what her, and she was taken aback, like, confident? Me? No, I'm not confident. So I guess my question is, do you think we can be confident and not know it?
Clearly. Because Grace was. I think she thinks she's capable. But I don't know that she equates that to confidence. And to sit there and listen to her speak, she has this quiet confidence that she doesn't look at someone and think, oh, they're so amazing, I could never do that. The mentors that she had that were PhDs are working toward it. And she said, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And I think what she didn't see is that not everybody thinks that way. Some people think, oh, well, she must be really smart, or, oh, she must be really capable or driven or things that I'm not. But Grace doesn't think that way. She sees something as a possibility and thinks, how am I going to get there to do it? And I can, of course, if they can, I can. So there's a lot of confidence going on with her amongst the humility because she doesn't see it. But she's very confident and clearly capable and smart. So it's an interesting dynamic to me that she does not necessarily think of herself in that way. And I think we all have doubts. When nobody thinks they're 100% going to just walk in the door and kill it in every single thing that they do. But that doesn't mean you're not confident, you know?
Right. Well, I think I see confidence as like a continuum or degrees. Maybe that's where there's I lack all confidence to almost a place of overconfidence, or let's move towards arrogance almost. And she's kind of that perfect where she trusts her ability, which is what confidence is trusting our capability that we can get something done. And it's not just in things I've done before, but she trusted and had confidence in her ability to learn or her ability to do something that she hadn't done yet. In this case, get her PhD, start a business, become a multi-unit operator, create a curriculum, all things really that she hadn't done. But she had, like you said, this quiet confidence that says, okay, I haven't done that, but I can do it. But with great humility, that just says, I can learn it. I can do that, but not with any kind of chip on her shoulder or anything like that, that oftentimes we see that spurns us, that says, we watch somebody else do something, I can do that. That wasn't her. She wasn't that I could do that. It was just like, I could do that. Very subtle.
Yeah, man. And I think listening to you talk, I've been thinking about the way her family brought her up. She was the first probably person to graduate high school, certainly the first to go to college, absolutely the first to get a PhD, probably in any of the people that she knew personally from her family or peer group or friend group. So that's probably where some of that comes from, because she hadn't seen people that she knew do it until she got out into academia and into teaching and saw the professionals already. But the family never told her she couldn't. The expectation was set. you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a
That's
lawyer.
right. They put a bar up there.
So they elevated her in terms of capability. But I think having never seen people in her immediate life accomplish those things, that's probably where that disconnect comes from, because she was the first to do most of those things, but never doubted that she worked hard and she learned that she was capable of learning and doing. It's an interesting thing, and I wonder if that's a more common feeling among an immigrant population that has historically less educated family members, because you don't have that person to have shown you the way.
Right. I think that's a really good point, because many immigrants come to the U.S. and they truly believe that they can have a better life here. They have confidence that they're going to have a better life here. And they also know if they work hard, if they get an education, they can. So it is, I think, a common belief that she held, and many immigrants held, that I'm going to have a better life. All I have to do is work hard and get my education, both of which she was quite capable of and willing to do, and was nurtured to do. The part that I thought was also interesting as it relates, you kind of brought in this quiet confidence and humility. I also wonder, with her religious upbringing in the Pentecostal church, if that quieted her from being overly confident, or what I mean, where humility is valued greatly in that religion, that everything is from God, right? And so therefore, this humility almost was sort of part of her upbringing too. So she was given this beautiful foundation of, you can do anything if you work hard, you get your education. And she also had this foundation of humility, that's grateful for what she has and feels blessed, and allows her to kind of temper any overconfidence.
Right. Well, and I think it'll be interesting. I don't know exactly how old she is. Clearly, I would guess early 30s, maybe younger than
she just looks so young.
But the fact, as she grows, and we talked about this in her segment, that you and I have talked about owning the things that we're capable of more forwardly, for lack of a better word, and claiming the authority that we know what we're good at. We know we're at an age where we understand who we are, what we can do, what we can't do, what we want to accomplish. And there's nothing wrong with accepting that authority and owning it and saying, you know what, these are the things that I know, and not letting anyone sway that, or, negativity or naysayers get involved in our thinking process. And so I think it'll be interesting to watch her as she goes through life and goes through, like, she's got 5 locations, and
5 locations,
leaders. And as she evolves through kind of claiming that position and that leadership, I don't think she has an ounce of risk of becoming overly confident or arrogant.
No, she will always be a humble, graceful.
I think she has the potential to own more of it and to say, I am an authority in this area, and I have something to say and do and teach. And I think she's on that path. But
I agree.
I think it'll be more and more and more evident as she gains that professional confidence and leadership.
Yes, and continues to create leaders, which is what she's particularly good at, is creating other leaders. So we're going to have to be observers of her business and her future, because you're right, it'll be interesting to see how she evolves into this next stage of leadership that she's heading into.
And she's going to find ways to mentor. There's no doubt. We need to get her in the coterie doing that.
We need to do that, okay? Grace, if you're listening, we need you in the coterie to share some of this graceful, quiet confidence and leadership skills with other women, and so you can teach others. So hopefully you're hearing us.
That's
For
our
anyway. The rest of you, join the coterie, okay? Because we got all kinds of great events for you. Hopefully we can nab Grace. But for today, we're so grateful that you joined us. Where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships are forged. This is Beck and Liz signing off and wishing you another purpose-filled and profitable week.